Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Traveling using an airplane has become one of the regular ways people utilize to go to other countries, and in some cases within the country itself. Now, as Muslims, we have the duty of salah, prayer, which must be performed 5 times a day and cannot be missed. There are unfortunately some people who believe that they can miss their salah simply because they're traveling on a flight, or just assume that they can do it sitting down only. How then do we perform the prayer inside the plane? There are a number of things for all of us to consider. Firstly, there are 2 scenarios that faces us whilst traveling. One is when we know that we will have sufficient time upon reaching the destination to perform our prayers properly, i.e. with all the conditions such as standing up intact. For example, I'm due to land in New York at 3 p.m. and sunset is at 6 p.m. I know there would be enough time to pray Dhuhr and Asr. In this case, I must pray when I reach New York and not whilst in the plane, if I can't pray properly while standing, for example, in the plane. But if there's no time or it's tight, then salah inside the plane should be performed and cannot be missed. In fact, salah cannot be missed for any reason whatsoever, as long as we are conscious. Now, before we pray and after we've performed our wudu, we must determine the direction of the qibla. Now, this can be done easily these days by either asking the airline staff inside the plane or checking the monitor in front of us that shows the direction towards Mecca. Secondly, we should try to find a place inside the plane where we can pray properly. Now, this means we can perform it standing and go down to ruku' and sujood, etc. We can ask permission if possible. You'll be surprised. I've been in situations where airline staff have been accommodating and directed me to a corner where I prayed. This is much preferred if possible. If not though, then we need to do as much of the wajib obligatory acts of salah as possible given our situation. So, if we can stand and pray, we should. For example, I might be sitting in my seat, but then I can stand up. If so, we recite what needs to be while standing, then move the head slightly down for ruku', then say the dhikr, then raise the head, then move it again down for sujood, then recite the dhikr. We can then sit down between the 2 sajdas and recite tashahhud while sitting in our seats. Remember too that this should be done facing the qibla. But if standing up is not possible, where for example the staff say it's not allowed, or we might be inconveniencing others, we should try to recite Takbiratul Ihram, Allahu Akbar, at least while standing and facing the Qibla. Then sit down for the rest of the Salah. If this is not possible, i.e. standing up at all, we can pray sitting and face the Qibla. If, for example, the Qibla is in the direction where we can't face throughout the entire Salah, if someone, for example, is sitting next to us, at least face it for the Takbiratul Ihram. Now, whilst praying in a sitting position, we can move our head to indicate ruku' and also sujood. Alternatively, one can hold a turba in their hands and use that for sujood as well. So, in summary, we try to fulfill as much of the conditions of salah as possible. And if we can't, then that particular condition can be dropped. How do we determine the time for salah? Well, for Maghrib and Isha, this is easy. We can see it's dark outside the plane. But for Fajr, Dhuhr and Asr, one way to do this is to check the monitor in front of us and see where the plane is flying over currently, which city, which country. Then use an app that doesn't need internet, for example, to determine salah time at that location. What happens if the direction of the plane changes whilst I'm praying? In that case, you should stop any recitation and pause until the movement stops. Move the body towards the Qibla and continue the Salah. If it's not possible, you can start the Salah again. That's, of course, if you're praying while standing or able to move and face the Qibla. What about stability inside the plane with the movement or turbulence? Usually, stability is a condition in salah, but if there is much turbulence and you're praying standing, for example, inside the plane, then this condition is dropped. Can the salah be prayed inside the toilet or restroom inside the plane? Yes, it's allowed, although it's makruh, i.e. not recommended. If you do pray inside the toilet, just ensure that the area you do sajda prostration on is tahir, pure, and that you're also not inconveniencing others as well. What happens if you prayed Fajr inside the plane, as it was time for it, then you travel westward and reach the destination and it's not Fajr time there yet? Do we need to pray it again? The answer is no, as it's already been prayed for that day. This is the same for other situations as well, where you pray a certain salah for that day, then you reach the destination and the time for that salah has not reached yet. You don't need to do it again. Now remember, if you're not a frequent traveler, then Dhuhr and Asr as well as Isha must be performed as Qasr inside the plane once you pass the point outside your city. Now I've tried to cover as many areas as possible relating to traveling on a plane, but if you do have any other questions, please visit the Ask the Sheikh section on islamiced.org and submit your questions. May Allah bless your journey.